on Clubhouse.
Can I just bring it back to what happened in that game? Because a certain small man was stuck on Thermite the entire game and got spawn peeked, I believe, in 4 of their attacking rounds by Leon for the most part. It definitely wasn't a game where NaVi got to play Clubhouse. They got to see Clubhouse flash, and then they got to see the scoreline flash across their screen. So that one to me, I'm not going to say it's a write-off, but it's a game that I kind of put in the memories to forget folder, put it in a little box, lock it, throw away the key, and get on with my life. And hopefully the same comes out today, where it's not going to be an absolute destruction derby against NaVi, where actually we get a real good game between these two teams, because I am excited. Monty ban coming away. We know who's been playing Monty an awful lot for NaVi recently. Been looking towards Kendrew bringing that one out in a lot of games, so I think that's a target ban towards him.
The Valkyrie's also a bit of a target ban as well, because the more information that you have for really aggressive players like Joe, for example, the more they're able to jump out. So if you can limit that just a little bit, surprised not to see the Nomad ban as well to maybe accompany that, but I think these bans are appropriate for both teams.
Yeah, I think looking towards the Valkyrie, you are absolutely right in what you're saying there around trying to deny the jump outs, but if you've watched any UKIN, we know what Joe's like. He doesn't care if there's information or not. He's out of those windows, he's out of those doorways, and as much as we like to meme him, I do think we are going to see some sensible play coming out of Joe here. I think this lineup was a big risk when we saw it announced. Yeah, I actually think they've reined him in a bit. Listen, Joe, look, here at the top level, you don't get away with jumping out of every single window and doorway. Things have got to be a little bit more composed. So rein him in a little bit, maybe play on something that requires some sight play, like the Kai Kana back across the Mozzie again. So definitely playing around this information denial piece here with these two coming out as we head downstairs in towards Church and Arsenal.
Yeah, look, you say that, and we read a few things about the Joe pickup. They said he was kind of an unknown factor, and they wanted to use all of his mechanical skills, but rein it into a professional type of style. If we see that here with Joe, he's on the Mozzie at the moment. He's got the new 1.5 to rock with that as well if he is running the Roni. He's got the angle grip as well. I mean, there's a lot of damage you can do with that. Last game, we saw Leon try and do damage with it. He wasn't successful. I want to see Joe whip that out and have a really good round with it. But this is the thing. NaVi is not the same team. I really want to preface this matchup. They are not the same team. They've got 2 new players, and that is huge because they lost Nello, who is a very good support player. They've got Kendrew. Not going to deny that at all. But look at the lineup. Doki on the Jaeger. We've got Kendrew and Blur, Saves. I mean, Saves has now moved over to pretty much the full support. Is that what I'm seeing here?
5 seconds left.
It's starting to look that way, and that definitely wasn't him last season. He was more looking towards playing things like the Valkyrie, and it was Kendrew who fell back to playing on the smoke duties. Maybe it's just a one-round thing. I understand from speaking to the team that Blurry, you're going to find playing in this kind of Panics Nello hybrid role. He's kind of supporting the team in their endeavors, and you're relying more on these aggressive members looking towards Doki and Joe to really be the ones causing some trouble. But it does kind of leave Saves in this kind of mid-state of being in limbo, where you're not quite sure what to expect, but hey, that's the way to make a name for yourself, Joe. Doesn't matter. He goes, you know, if you're leading in with a drone and you want to see me, you come and challenge me. You come for the king. You better not miss. And, well, they didn't miss, but they definitely didn't kill him either. But he is down to 1 HP. Finally goes down, and May found himself getting picked off here. Nope, gets res at the last second. I believe that was a reset coming out from his team.
Yeah, they absolutely reset him there. 20's better than 1 if you ask anyone. That'll give him a little bit more life. And this is the secondary hard breach gadget we were talking about. Look at it in its full glory. That'll burst that hatch open with no contesting. And as a result, Joe will have to move back into Church. But 1 minute has elapsed now, and they've lost one of their key entry players, and they're only just getting the hatches open now. So they'll need to speed things up ever so slightly. They've got those Banshees to go up against as well. And if you look there, Boy will be technically the only one, as well as maybe P4 if he keeps some of his impacts, to get rid of those Banshees.
You touch on P4 there just for a brief second as a player, and I really need to see big things out of him this season. Back in Challenger League Season 11, he was a god. Best stats in the whole competition. Last season of EUL, he was -16 on entry, 8 to 24. That is the worst stat we had in terms of entry last season, and I want to see him get composed. I want to see him take a breath in some of these rounds. Don't always go for the opening kill, but then be that machine that we've seen a couple of times from him previously. Blue now being assumed under control with the help of that Capitao coming out of Chaoxis, and P4, the man of the hour, the man I just mentioned, strikes with a kill onto Blur, letting things out at 4 apiece. Only 65 seconds left in this round.
Well, they have blue control for the most part. They were able to flame out the Jaeger, and that's great map control now, but the peaks are not right. They're all there for NaVi instead, and this will mean that it's all up to Shinker and Chaoxis, 2 players that don't have walls open, and that means that NaVi will take that round. And oh, Joe, that's his first ever professional round, and I think he's given us a little bit of a taste as to what to come.
Well, easily a couple of kills coming out from in that round. That opening one, just a real quick way of shutting down Durza, who was looking to play pretty aggressively around the upstairs. And I think they acknowledged that once he was dead, there was just no real grounds to have control of the hallway. And that's when the attention turned instead towards Blue and trying to go for this very one-dimensional push. Like what I saw, it wasn't Joe jumping out of a window like he's very renowned for in the UK, but it was enough at least to get his team over the finish line in pretty convincing fashion. Tempra left flailing, and although it's only been one round, dare I say, it's almost feeling a little reminiscent of last season, where they just haven't quite got the goods to deliver, and other teams feel very, very comfortable playing around this aggression that they start to show.
Well, next round, we'll move on to CCTV. Bandit in hand, and no Thatcher ban. Carly in play as well. In fact, pretty much all of the wall denial that you need is also in play for the defenders. However, it looks like they're just going to be dealing with it with the Maverick for the most part, so Voy's going to have to be extra careful. Kendra on the smoke is generally how they'll combat that Maverick line over on the CCB wall there. You see Kendra reinforcing it. Thank you to our beautiful observer medics. And that's how they'll generally try and combat it, but look at that, cute little tweet. Tweet us. In the second match, the new NaVi will take on Tempra on Clubhouse. Who will win it? What do you think? Well, I think everyone knows exactly what we think, but I think everyone else at home will have different opinions.
Split desk. People ask me for my opinion, and all you hear is the British national anthem. Well, the national anthem starts playing out, and you guys are like, sorry, what was that? And I'm like, sorry, can't hear you. All about the UK Massive here, sorry. Now, in all seriousness, it is a genuine prediction on going forward with this one. I do think they have the right tools now to really step up and shine. I think NaVi haven't really been the same size since Citizen departed, because they lost that entry duo that we're so used to. And, well, Doki's finding himself a naughty little tap on the Malusi, having a wonderful time up from the window, I think. Where did he net that kill on? Was that on the rappel? Or was it out through...
Oh, it was on the rappel. That's a very predictable rappel as well, and I believe that was from gym window or bedroom window. He's tapped them all open, so possibly bedroom window there, and that one tap onto the rappel up, onto Durza again. If I'm Durza and I'm dying as the opening death in the first 30 seconds, 2 rounds in a row, I'm feeling tilted.
I mean, one, you've got inside the building pretty aggressively, and you've gone, all right, then second round, let's just dial it back a little bit and play a bit more sensibly. Then you come into this round where you're on the rappel and saying, right, I'm going to hold this window in case anyone tries anything funny, and you still are the opening death. I wonder what happens in round number 3, Jess. What's the end to this story? What's that final chapter we're going to see for Durza potentially next round? Either way, this round plays on 5 versus 4. They have managed to get this wall open out towards CCTV Kennel's wall, and now it's about trying to find out what they go for next. Do they go for garages? So many teams tended to. Back in the old days, dare I say, air quotes, old days, a lot of teams still do. But I think for teams like NaVi, their preference in the past has been very heavily towards looking towards construction, getting that wall open, and then trying to make...
That was a yellow ping. Huh? That had to have been a yellow ping. There we go. The infamous yellow ping. They had a drone in garage. What they were able to do is what we call the Z ping. They're able to give a precise location without letting the player know their spot in. That was Blur at the bottom of garage. And, oh, his life gets ended by Voy, who had already done his job on CCTV wall. So they traded it back eventually.
Huh. Part of me wonders why he would have been playing downstairs lower garage there when normally you'd see a Maestro playing up. And I don't know if he was trying to support onto the walls or something, or just looking to provide an alternative angle. I'm not sure, but that was the freest kill they'll ever find. And as you say, the Z-ping definitely coming in to help. Say's going to pick up Kyoxis, and that's that Capital removed as well. So critical when it comes around to execution time. Speaking of which, Voy going to find yet another kill. Say's going down, and now we're into a 3 versus 3. 45 seconds to go. 3 drones still left alive on the side of Tempra.
Oh my goodness, he did see the head and he'll capitalize. Wasn't a headshot somehow, some way, but Joe gets taken out nonetheless. And now it's all, now it's all up to Doki and Kendra. Grenade will sail up. It'll get the Banshee, but it won't get the player. They'll throw a secondary to move him on up, and it looks like, well, a lot of confusion by Kendra now. He knows that there's multiple ways he needs to be looking. He needs to get his gun out. He's being chased by P4. He's all alone, 1v2. Diffuser's not in hand either. And what, with 15 seconds left, all he has to do, he'll have to go for the key. He'll have to go for the kill here. There's no other choice in his hands. And if he doesn't, he'll have to get the plant off. Kenju below, shotgun, but no intel.
Oh no.
Oh no.
It's got nothing else to do with it. He's stuck in a spot here where the 1v1 has gone through post-plant as well. P4 may have a golden opportunity to clutch this round away. Despite NaVi looking like they were on cleanup duty just a few seconds ago, suddenly the tables have turned, and it's instead in favor of the attackers. Playing a bit ring around the roses here, it feels like, with the diffuser down inside of CCTV. And all you got to see from P4 is to hold tight on this one. Wins the gunfight as well. Massive round coming out of him after we commented earlier on around how last season was so disappointing for these boys. Every single player being negative in KD, almost every single one being negative when it comes to entry. These are the kind of rounds you need to see, and that is going to be a massive confidence booster.
That was a brilliant round. There were 2 kills there that came out of yellow pings as well. I cannot stress this enough. Tempra has had a multiple round kill of just going, okay, we have really good drone economy. I think they're one of the best teams, at least back when they were in Challenger League. They're really good drone economy. I thought they used their support players well to get those drones in, be able to find that intel. And now that they've got yellow ping to their disposal, there was so many kills that came out of the fact that they were just being able to spot people. They didn't have to give precise callouts. They just had to go, on this ping right here, there's a player. Either shoot through the wall or you can move in on him. Both bottom garage players got absolutely obliterated as a result. And now NaVi are choosing to go back to CCTV and hope that they remedy those mistakes that cursed them last round.
Rank stars, fear not. Our day has come where we can turn around and say he's on ping. And it's absolutely an okay thing to do. And sure, it gives 2 kills over. It does give them the control and garage they were looking for. Small things like that, and okay, yes, it looked like towards the end of it, NaVi really should have been the one to take that round, but it's Tempra who still find that 1 next to their name, with NaVi equally drawing things up there. Round number 3, we're going back to the same side of Cash and CCTV. Nothing of note massive coming through in terms of a change on either side. One thing I really want to look out for is Chaos in this round. 1, he's got the new hard breach gadget. 2, he's also in a spot where that utility could be so useful for them, and I mentioned him. Joe takes a bit of a swipe at his head, does take off about 1/3 of his HP, but he lives at least to be able to utilize that utility at a later stage in the round.
That was a lot of aggression. You spoke about him being put on a bit of a leash. Well, the leash was let off on this particular round for him. And now he'll be able to rotate back up near Doki. I make the assumption they'll do a little bit of a duo roam together, or duo lurk rather. If they're close enough, they'll be able to at least trade each other. Doki's taken a lot of health. I don't know if that was a spray through the wall or what happened to him. But at least they were able to trade some of the yellow ping somewhere. Trade some of that HP back onto NaVi.
From across the map.
Yeah, I bet you. Through like 3 walls. I guarantee you.
Yeah, why not?
Oh no. But here we go. Looks like a bedroom push is the play here. And actually, in fact, they might open up both sides and do a pinch push onto each side.
Trying to, I think, force the back here as well, knowing that they've got a couple of members lurking out towards you in bedroom, and rightly so. Perfect time to back away to keep themselves alive, at least for now. Doki straight down through that hatch. He's having none of it. Don't want to get involved in another gunfight upstairs. We mentioned frequently around players wanting to kill drones and get themselves back to site safely. That's normally where, as you say, a pinch would come through. Wasn't quite the intent there, but Doki equally hasn't got to worry about someone being downstairs, as all the members of Tempra, quite rightly, are focusing right now on the upstairs. 3 players currently lurking around downstairs that could cause a bit of trouble. But what I love is that all the action currently is taking place away from the site. It's very little focus actually on towards CCTV and Cash. Everything is taking place out towards the west.
Well, Dirts is still alive somehow, some way. Made it through over half the round, but Chaos is down and he's dead, and Joe will take him out. He'll finish what he started at the beginning of the round, and now Dirtser, he'll clap back on a Joe. P4 gets in on the game as well. And it's a 4v3 now for NaVi. 1 minute left on the clock, and I'm not sure whether or not they did manage to get that wall open with the help of P4. I'm sure they did. Construction looking to be the next play now, and this is looking really good for Tempra now. Time management on point. Just need to speed up this construction pinch.
It's like you managed to pick off Doki and Joe. I was just about to say you've then got big boy Kendra waiting in the back. It's like when you're at school and you get bullied as a little kid. Then you go, I've got a big brother actually. Here he comes. And then Kendra walks in the room and goes, sorry, what are you saying about my little brothers? And here he is. Joe, doesn't matter if he's gone down. Doesn't matter if you pick off Doki as well. You've always got this backbencher in Kendra waiting there. And I spoke about him earlier on. The kind of stats that he put up last season was absolutely unbelievable for these boys. 1.13 rating and a plus 14 KD as a Maverick and Smoke main is pretty unbelievable.
Well, now we're down to 10 seconds, and I praised Tempra for their time management before, but it's not looking good now. They're zooming on in. Red pings the play this time instead. Dirtser, he'll be able to get, but Doki pulls out the pistol. He's ever so accurate, and he doesn't miss. Spell peek with the first, and then he'll get another 2 with that particular pistol. And, ooh, Malusi might become a Doki main. Or Doki,
it may well be. Doki may become a Malusi main,
Malusi's
absolutely.
becoming a Doki main. That's it. I've laid down the law. Only Doki can play Malusi. That's it.
Somehow I feel that rule is not going to sit well with most teams, I think, Jess. You may have a few people contesting that new rule.
Possibly. I say that, though. Kendra wants it. I think he's a little jealous. Look at that KD difference. He goes, "You've got enough kills for this game, Doki. Can you pass her over a bit? She's really handy."
Don't even pass her. Just keep the operator. Just give me the pistol, bro. That's where the action seems to be at today.
Well, looks like that 6 pick from the Maestro onto the Kaid will be ever so helpful. We'll go over to Church and Arsenal, and you think about those hatches now. You think, and a lot of people don't realize that that's just kind of been, I'm going to say nerfed. A lot of people say that he's just been balanced out. I say he's been nerfed a bit, and it's going to give operators like Kaid a big opportunity, especially on this bottom floor. And I myself have found that you can Kaid trick, especially the kitchen hatch, very easily, because Thatcher now only disables things. It doesn't destroy them, so you can pick up the disabled one, put down the other one, and they need to throw another one, and you can just rotate the electric claws throughout hatches. But it looks like Dirt is where he's going to place one, so he won't technically be able to trick it, but it's something they could do should they want to.
They will opt to at a later stage, but I imagine for now, as you say, it's the again, the question mark nerf that sits over it, which means actually you do get a little bit of flexibility on the attacking side as well. And let's not forget what Ace is starting to bring to a lot of teams too. Admittedly available here, and neither team looking to bring him along, because destroying those hatches does take a couple of those Selma charges. Not really the ideal spot to be in when you want to be using those on walls, for example. So a bit more reliance here on the old guard, falling back to things like the Maverick and the Thermite together, which is what you can see Voy and Shinka bringing out here. Let's see though if Tempra can actually get an execute off here. It feels like the round so far have always come down to this kind of mad flurry in the dying seconds of a round, where it comes round to a bit of a ring around the rose inside of Cash and CCTV. They've not really had a chance to make use of the Capital very often to make any kind of execute work. If nothing else, Joe has constantly been taking swipes at Chaoxis and saying, you want to try and make that happen? Well, I'm here at every single doorway, willing you to try and get inside the building. So I want to see Tempra take things a little bit calmer here, and I imagine that is very, very difficult against this current iteration of NaVi, but they've got to start pulling things together here if they want to get another round or two out of this attacking half of the clubhouse.
Absolutely. Saves was roaming upstairs a little bit by himself, but now he has Joe with him over on Secret. Good quick peeks over into the garage door, but only health will be taken off Saves. And well, there's two players from Tempra really wanting to take this area. In fact, they have to take it. No one's daring to peek. In fact, it'll be the first person to peek will be the one who dies, and that's going to be Joe. He'll get downed. Whether they know he's downed or not is another thing. Saves will capitalize on them rushing. Be able to get him. Ooh, double for Voy. I love that for him. That's a great entry. And now, well, it's a 4v3, and this is looking better for Tempra yet again.
I wonder if that was a blind spray through the window to down Joe there. If so, unlucky. Otherwise, it could have been drone informed. I love how these days we have to think about that being such a big part of the game. It does make it rough for players like Joe who want to be out on their own, trying to cause some trouble. A couple of well-paced drones, and that whole game plan can be shut down entirely. But I do like how he had Saves trying to play upstairs to cause some trouble as well. Not quite sure that Legion is the most conventional operator we see for that kind of purpose, but at the very least, it was causing Tempra to slow down inside a garage. And yes, we've only now got to a point where after about 2 minutes, they've got the hatches open. They can start looking for this push into blue. Looks like they're setting up for a similar one to before, where they drop all the fire and the smoke inside of blue, push their way in deep, and then try to make an execute work from there. But the problem last time was it was very one-dimensional, and it left them very stuck.
Well, yet again, it looks like blue control is what they're after. Generally, you see P4 play here, but Dirtza happens to be alive for the first time, so he'll be able to get access to blue himself. 24 seconds left on the clock. Not able to pepper those shots into blue thus far, but this time management, it's poor. They're not getting access onto site yet. They're being slowed down by Banshees as well. Here comes the execute. They'll crash walk on in, and they'll get that plant down. It'll start, but can they stop them? Is there a C4 in Kendra's hands? No, he's got the impacts. It's not going to be the denial. They'll get that down safely, and now it's going to be a retake.
Also with Kendra down as well, 1 versus 2. We've already seen them do this before a couple of times. Around a couple of rounds back when it was actually P4 who pulled it off. But there's no reason why Blur, one of the new boys to this roster, did loan in for these guys a few months back, can do it all for them here. Can he channel his inner Kendrew and have one of those big clutches coming out of nowhere? It feels unlikely with only 20 seconds to go and still 2 bodies to kill. 1 at the back of Arsenal, 1 off to his right-hand side, I believe. C4's going to come out towards this wall, moves away, sees him run across, but can't quite get spray down, and Durza returns fire. Enough of toying with his food. Blur gets shut down. Tempra get that second round they were looking for, and I'd say that if the half ends here with them at 2 rounds, I'd be pretty content, I think.
We'll see what Dirtz can do when he does manage to stay alive, and I really want to see from Tempra the fact that they're doing really good droning, they're zoning off the map really well, and then they have this sort of weird period of about 30 seconds between the mid and the late round and the execute where they stall out a bit. And a lot of teams do this. So I'm not downplaying Tempra in any way, shape, or form, but they need to get over that hurdle a little bit, and they'll be much more dominant on their rounds. Unfortunately for Tempra, I don't have the statistic here about how, you know, the average plant remain time, which I do for NaVi, which is about 11.9 seconds on the clock remaining when NaVi does manage to get the plant finished. I would say it's actually less for Tempra, just sort of hypothesizing here that stat would actually be far less for Tempra, which is a shame because, you know, early mid-round, things are looking not too bad for them. So if they can clean up the late round, they might do really well.
It does feel like it's two stages to a round here, where it's almost like you have the gauntlet to run at the start, where you're trying to run through these 2 or 3 members of NaVi that are roaming around the map and looking to cause a bit of trouble for you, picking up members like Durza, going for Chaoxis, things like that. And then it comes around to the later stage where it's kind of a Hail Mary rush to try and go for a plant. And normally at that stage it's turned into a 2 versus 2, a 3 versus 3, those kind of numbers. And it's like the two sets of the two parts of that round just feel very, very different in terms of game, where NaVi seem to have a bit of an advantage early, and then Tempra are the ones who really step up the heat in the dying seconds of the round. Let's see though if they can find themselves a third round on the attack, because that will put them in such a strong position going into the defending half here on Clubhouse.
What I do also want to point out is that the 3 most played defensive operators for NaVi in the first stage were Jaeger, Smoke, and Mute. They make 2 whole roster changes, but no operator change. It's almost like they've been able to seamlessly fit the operators and I guess the strategies that they had in stage 1 in with the new players. I think that we're not seeing the best from NaVi yet, but we're absolutely seeing that they can carry on what they had in the first stage and bring it on with the new players. And that's a very, I guess, promising factor.
There's going to be a few teams who have to go through that journey, I think. That kind of rediscovery as changes have been made. NaVi, of course, one of them. Secret, Chaos, another that jumped to mind with 2 big changes coming in. I think it's almost going to be like Rogue from last stage, where we had to give him a bit of a time really to gel, for Leon to fit into that IGL role, like I mentioned back on the last map. These things take time. So we'll give it to them if it does come away and doesn't look so good in certain areas. But I still think we're already seeing the capability of the kind of direction they want to take this team in, based on how aggressive we've seen Doki, Joe, Saves playing in some of these rounds so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, looks like they've sped things up just a little bit, getting that blue hatch open. And there we go. It'll get popped open and Shinka will come zooming on in. P4 loves these secret stairs. He always wants to get control of it. And Chaoxis surely will pepper some of those flames in as well to be able to push that Jaeger back. No one might, because it's been banned. So that means that they can't deny any of the flames coming in. Might need to possibly also get some grenades in on there, but they also have to worry about the Banshees. I mean, people talk about, you know, this utility dump. Well, now with the Banshees on the board, this is exacerbated tenfold.
It's the same every single time from Tempra attacking down here. It feels like how we saw consulate office or consulate meeting, on the consulate on the last map between Rogue and Empire. This time, though, I was about to say NaVi have managed to bite back. Tempra have gone for the same execute time and time again, trying to push their way down blue. It feels like NaVi have finally learnt now and are starting to respond. Durza, P4, both taken off the board, and Tempra still committing to this blue push. And surely NaVi know what's going on here. We'll try and swing around to get one, but no, Doki taken out as Chaoxis will pick him off. 4 versus 3 for NaVi. Still that small numbers advantage, but they know what the game plan is now. They know what it is Tempra are trying to do, and here we go. Drop down from Shinka. Last time it was down main stairs. Here it's down through the hatch, but they've lost another one of their own as Void has been removed by Kendra again. Big brother waiting back on site, always ready to pick someone off. 3 versus 1. NaVi have got Tempra figured out in this round, and this one should put NaVi at least up to the point where they take round number 5, 3-2, with a wonderful C4 to close things out from Blur.
I feel like I'm not watching new players. I don't know how you feel, but I don't feel like I'm watching NaVi with 2 brand new players that weren't even Pro League players. No. Like, that's a huge thing. Isn't that crazy? And I mean, okay, we felt that when Rogue came into EUL stage 1 and we were like, oh, wow, they just feel so seamless. But they were pro players. These are not pro players. We can't stress this enough. These are 2 players who have never played tier 1, nothing at this level, and they're coming in. Joe, second on the leaderboard, 4-4, 1 KDs, keeping things even at the very least. And Blur, he's doing his job as a support / flex. You know, we saw him on the mute, etc. But he's doing his job at staying alive for as long as he can, the best way he can. So I'm rather impressed, even though we're seeing I guess a close scoreline, 3-2. It doesn't feel close, but it looks close. I'm still impressed.
I guess the concerning point is that for Tempra, there's 2 rounds they have won have been pretty... They've been scrappy. It was P4 going for that dying second plant. It was the kind of run around the roses that came in the following round. It looked a little bit scrappy. Don't worry, Shimanto. You are on TV.
Welcome to TV.
Wish has been granted.
There you go.
Well, welcome to TV. It's not as glamorous as they tell you, we promise. Anyway, I think I agree with you to an extent. Yes, they don't look like a team that has only been together. Well, I say only been together. They've had a few, a couple of months now probably playing together. Blur, of course, have played with these guys before. I imagine Kendrew was a big proponent of getting him into the team as well because he's shaping up to be Kendrew's apprentice in a way. Don't worry, in good time, you will see Blur becoming a clutch god of that, I'm sure.
Okay. Well, I expect big things now that you've said it. You got the UK massive brain on you, so I'll trust.
I'm going to slip into his DMs later and say, mate, I'm just saying if you don't do this now, then I'm disowning you.
Joe?
I can't hype you up if you don't do this for me.
Joe, buddy, buddy pal.
Go on.
Joe, big Joe, Joe mama. No, gone.
What was that, Jess?
No, nothing.
No, nothing. What? I mean, look, they had the ping. It's an anti-Joe device, right? This is the thing. Ubi saw that Joe was coming into EUL and thought, right, we need a way to contain this guy. He's got to be restrained. What do we do? Yellow ping is the answer. You saw there how it worked out wonderfully. The ping came through. They knew where Joe was, and some pre-fire shots came through. Not enough to connect the head, but it is him down to about half HP. But what I love about this, and although Joe will not stop doing this no matter how accustomed teams get to his aggressive play, because it's the edge it puts teams on. You saw how long Shinka was holding back in spawn there just in case he was waiting for him to come running around that corner.
Here we go.
That shaved a good 30-40 seconds out here, and there we go. It comes through again, a bit too cozy. Can't sit still anymore, Joe. You got to keep yourself moving, buddy. Get on them tiptoes.
As soon as I saw the drone come in, I thought to myself, oh, he is in a prime position to be window banged the way that he was, and well, that's what you get. I think a little bit of karma going Joe's way. But that's taken half the round now. They do have the wall open in CCTV as you just sort of explode there from the Zofia impact. But there are also a couple of those Yokais on the board as well. No IQ to deal with them. And guess what? Yokais can yellow ping as well, so this is dangerous.
It's going to be gross. Well, of course, they've actually managed to make use of that before it gets dealt with. Admittedly, no IQ on side. Hey, makes life a bit tougher to deal with those, and some teams opting to say, well, there's an Echo, we're just going to have to live with it here. We can't afford to drop an IQ into this comp in the same way that P4 is going to get dropped by Kendrew, coming up big on that Maestro. Does balance things out at 4 apiece, and Durza, well, he's hardly hanging on to life right now. Got a limb blown off somewhere, not feeling too good for himself. Neither is Voy. Say's picking up a second kill for NaVi, and despite it starting out as a 5 versus 4, they have managed to bring this back round in their favor. Now it's about holding on to that advantage.
Looking like Durza will make entry below, whether or not he'll use any of his gadgets to be of an assistance, but they're really running out of time here to decide what they want to do. Flames will narrowly miss the player. I believe that's Doki right behind the desk. He'll smoke back, but he will die to those flames eventually, so they are evening up the numbers, but this is going to have to be a collapse onto site, but Blur is below. He's a gunner and he's at plant denial, and he's going to do exactly both of those things. 15 seconds left. They're going to have to get one more kill if they want access here. The plant attempts to be going down. Shinka can't find the Yokai drone. Finally does. And surely they go for kills here. There's no opportunity for them to get a plant down in this current play. 1 kill, 2 more. Can he do it? It's all Kendrew. And plant. Oh.
Go, Kenny, go. Kill it, Kenny. What are you doing? Manages to get away with it. I thought for a second it was going to turn into one of those rounds where Shinka gets the plant down, turns around, and double kills them charging through the door. But nope. Old, faithful, old, reliable Kendrew, and Say's, of course, joining in there too on the Jaeger of all things. Able to bring that round back at the bitter end. That could have ended the half at 3 apiece, and my God, would that have been terrifying if they managed to find themselves another round that came from almost nothing. Imagine if that had been the 3rd round there where it had come down to overtime, the pant going down, and still, not overtime, sorry. It kind of is overtime, I guess. Overtime comes through, they still manage to get a plant down and somehow close things out, but NaVi do manage to put those fears to rest. 4-2 at the half. Now we get to see what happens now they switch sides. What happens when you stick this more aggressive NaVi, this reformed NaVi lineup on the attacking side? How much can they achieve together?
Absolutely. Now sides will switch. And this is where I'm really interested to see NaVi, because a team can be quite synergized on defense, just default. You can jump into a ranked match with a bunch of pros, and for the most part on defense, you can sort of figure each other out. You know what the defaults are for certain roles and everything. So I don't expect to see a whole whopping load of things on defense from NaVi. However, on attack, it's a completely different story. Joe is on Thatcher. Blur on Sledge. Now, is that Joe's, I guess, default operator that you would particularly expect him to play? I probably doubt that, but now that's the role he's filling, and he needs to show up with it quite well. I mean, he doesn't have an overwhelming job there on Thatcher, but he's got to be able to do something.
Given you know, or what you know of Joe so far, and the conversations we've had and how we've discussed the kind of play style that he likes to go for, what would you say is one of his favorite attacking operators? You see where I'm going with this.
If I say Ashe, will I be crucified?
No, you're correct. He was back in UK when we saw him play a few times. It was the Ashe. It was kind of sending him off to go and cause trouble around a certain part of the map. Not sure how much he'll achieve here on the Thatcher. And given the change that's come through, I'm keen to see how they utilize this and how it's going to stack up. I imagine fully it's going to be a case of getting the Bandit electric charges disabled and then looking to use the Ace on the walls here. They are lining up for that sort of setup. Interestingly, no Maverick. When that's such a big popular operator for Kendrew, normally he has a massive reliance on that. It is his most played operator in the last season and would give them more frags. Here they're relying instead on playing on the Thermite.
Oh no, they didn't barricade the door. This means Chaoxys will not be able to Bandit trick. Look at this, that will pop. This will give Saves the opportunity to concuss. And well, they won't even need to in the end because he's not even able to challenge the wall. And well, that's what happens now as a Bandit main. And if you want a Bandit trick, you actually can't leave anything on the wall because then you have to shoot it. So you have to just wait for the sound cue in order to place it down. It really didn't work out for Chaoxys there. And if that was their only strategy at denying that wall, it wasn't a very effective one.
No. And the whole comp to me just screams, you know, time wasting, denial, looking towards the Bandit for that, looking towards the castle to force out utility, the mute for the drones, even looking towards the mirror as well, of course, to make it so it's almost impossible to push into a room unless you've dealt with those drones in the first place. So, I don't know. Unless you dealt with the mirror window, sorry, in the first place. By droning out was what I was kind of going for. I don't know why my brain slept across to saying a Twitch drone could get in there. There's no Twitch on side. It's not going to happen. Doki's HP almost being eviscerated in a flash of red there. Down to about 15 HP or so. Almost got himself caught out, but is still alive at least for now. As is Voy. Finally, he gets picked off as saves. Well, the deck collector is here. Picking one up for the team. That puts NaVi into a 5 versus 4 with 70 seconds left to play.
Oh, Dirtser, that was a bad challenge, and Saves will capitalize on it completely. And now it's a 3v5 in total. Will they be able to get this plant down? Kendrew says, stop the plant. I'm going for frags, and I can hit everyone's head on the way through. All up to P4 now. Can he 1v4 it? Nah, Kendrew wants everyone. He's a magnet for the Tempra players. And that's another round in NaVi's hand. Would I say it was convincing? Hard to say because Tempra's setup was innovative. When's the last time you saw a mirror window on... Okay, mirror is banned for the most part, but when's the last time mirror's been unbanned and you've seen it played on the lounge wall like that? When I think I remember that being played all the way back when I was a coach in like season 9. I think there were mirrors on the wall in lounge, let alone now as well.
See, I think I can top you there. And if you're playing top trumps here, I can tell you when I last saw it, it was in my silver games in ranked.
Ooh. Self-burns are the best burns.
They are. A bit of self. Sometimes you've got to hurt yourself to love yourself, right? Is what they like to say. Let's see how this round goes as we head downstairs. The Alibi being brought out here. I've got to ask Jess. I always talk about Alibi every single time I see her. I do really like her as an operator. Some teams have got some interesting uses for her. Had a good chat with Pengu about it at one point as well, and how you can rely on those decoys as being almost like lesion traps in a way. You can still see them through walls in this case. You know if they get destroyed where someone's pushing from. So although it's not true to lesion, it's still that information that it feeds across the team, alongside being fast, being able to do a bit of terraforming on site, as Voy is doing right now, and also a pretty decent primary gun at the same time, along with a shield. She does a lot. There is a lot packed into one operator here.
I think the huge thing for me, and let me just double check, and if we could have our observer just pop up the expanded view for me for just a second. Thank you very much. Okay, so they've got the shield instead. Okay. For the most part, especially if you're putting these alibis behind the shields, what you're hoping for is that split second that you're taking the attention away from where you might be sitting and using her as a distraction gives you that split second advantage oftentimes. Because at this level of play, half a second is a lot. It might not be in your silver games, but trust me, in these games it is.
No, apparently in my games, 10 seconds isn't a whole lot either. It's a wild one, I'll say that much. Let's see how it shapes up, though. We're about 30 seconds in, and no one has got themselves into an early engagement. It's not stopping Joe getting himself invested on main stairs. As we saw back in round number 1, he was there very early on to greet Durza and say, hello, I'm new here. Let me extend a hand or a bullet or two of friendship. Chaos is picking up saves. That is the Sophia removed nice and early, so that's some pretty critical utility gone. We all know how much damage you can do with those impacts at distance, useful for clearing out utility. Admittedly, not a ton to worry about here, looking more towards the shields and, of course, the Malusi gadgets coming out, but that's about it. No evil eyes in sight.
That's a really good angle there coming out from the sledge. That will give them a little bit of an indication as to whether anyone is playing deep armory, but it doesn't give them all of the angles, and that's what they'll be trying to deal with here. Are they impact tricking? Are they not? Do we have access to being able to open these hatches? That's exactly what the sledge's job here. Traditionally, it used to be the Buck's job because he had grenades to go with it, but Dirtzer, he doesn't know whether or not be able to get the C4. He'll miss blur saves with his life, and I think that's the best outcome here that the attackers could hope for.
Blur's just like, don't even care, bro. Lol's still going to carry on swinging this hammer into the floor to get ourselves the vision lines we need. Kendrew is straight in, and in that last round, 3 kills for himself on the Thermite, and here he is leading the charge straight up against the wall and trying to get this one opened up. No kind of denial to come through. They now know what the game plan is. They know where Kendrew is committed that exothermic, and it's going to be on the side of Tempra to respond and stop NaVi in their endeavors.
1 minute left on the clock. Wall open into church. So much more happening here for NaVi than unfortunately Tempra was able to achieve on their attack. And this is putting Tempra in a really precarious situation here. They have so much time to contend with if they don't get these picks. As P4 is now laying down in the middle of the hallway. Keox is his second of the round. And now things are kicking off. You'll see the ace charge going off, giving them much better access onto the site. But why didn't he grab the diffuser? He'll move on. The alibi spots him. Oh, goodness me. Flick on a Doki. Flick on a Keox. Oh, my goodness. Looks like it's going to be all a NaVi push here. But take it back. Boys on the play. New player here, Blur. Can he put things together? I don't know about this.
A lot to do by himself, admittedly. We've seen him in this situation already when he was on the other side of the equation to find 2 kills and to go for a plant in the dying 10 seconds. I think we know how these one close up, and surely they can stop him here. I think they're going to have to go and contest pretty aggressively. Not there in time. Will he find him? He had to get up. No, he cannot. Shinka puts that dream in the dirt, and Tempra will find themselves another round. That puts us at 5-3, and Tempra still got a bit of fighting back to do. NaVi 2 rounds away from that victory, but of course, with Tempra being on the defensive side, you give a little bit of lean over towards them.
That was a good round there from Tempra. I said that they needed to just take that one of those picks because they were getting pinched from so many different angles, and there was 50 seconds on the clock when they had that church wall open initially from the first hole. Ace charge then was the second hole that they made, and that's a lot of time to play with, you feel, the attackers. I did wonder when Kendrew did have the plant dropped and he didn't have any of his teammates come pick it up. I was a little bit worried. I mean, if you look at the stats, I get it. He's the guy that does the plant. He has like double digits plants in stage 1 alone. I think he's got 10 plants on his own, and Saves is sort of the secondary planter. But his teammates weren't there to sort of like pick it back up and keep going, keep that flow going. So I do wonder if they rely on Kendrew a lot more than they should to get that plant down and focus on the objective. But either way, I mean, Tempra did take advantage of it. They stayed calm in a few situations there. And you know who we got to give a shout out to? Keoxys. He had a pretty average first stage, right? And especially when we spoke about him being the main Jaeger player back in Challenger League, and he didn't really do too well on the Jaeger in the first stage, so they swapped it around with a couple of other players, P4 and etc. But that round on Jaeger, he did his job to perfection.
And he is the Jaeger player for the team as well. When you look at what his most popular operators were from last season, Nomad on the attacking side, no surprises there, and the Jaeger on the other. I think he had a pretty rough first half to this match in itself. We knew that he was constantly the target of Joe, so hasn't really had much opportunity to shine. But being on the Capital, it's one of those roles where, like, if you do your job well, no one really notices. If you do it bad and you die, everyone can tell, because you are a massive missing part of the execute at the end. When the execute does come round, you're just that guy who drops down a bit of smoke or a bit of fire, and people walk in and get kills. It is a thankless job, so I do feel for him in this case, but at least he's keeping himself relevant here, and it's kind of the same story with the mirror. He needs to keep those mirror windows alive. We've already seen the impact it had in the last round of shutting down Doki before he could go on a tear from Moto in towards Church. Here it could very well turn out to be the same story.
I hope that there's a couple of ADSs there to be able to assist this mirror window, because the pressure is mounting, and actually Keox has been able to move back into gold bars, so that's a funny one. I believe they had a drone on the corner of the hatch there that would have spotted him rotating out of that position. Only one ADS to assist, as our beautiful observer put on the screen. But they should have been watching that. In my opinion, if you want to flush someone out, you've got to be watching their rotate out and their rotate back in even. I mean, the drone's not going to shoot for you, boys. You got to look at it with your scope.
Look at your skulls and pull the trigger. Hopefully try and bring him down. It's not really come to fruition for them just yet. A lot of focus out towards the west side, and P4 lurking downstairs here could be a big late round spoiler, but here we go. Ball and get opened up. It looks like Durza even pulling back in towards bathroom here may yet still have some trouble to cause. I love this place when you have a mirror window on side. You can just peek out here and try and go for a free kill if someone's trying to play too far out towards the right. Got to be so wary. However, it's Blur striking big onto Voy elsewhere, just to make sure that Tempra are reminded there's more than one direction the attackers can come from here, and you've got to be so mindful.
Did they not know Chaoxis was in that corner? Oh no, big mistakes coming out here. It's all going to be up to saves to save the round. Excuse my pun, but Doki, he'll do it instead, in style as well. A good hatch kill from below, but P4 has no plan to so he'll have to come up the stairs and he'll get caught. What a shot. Oh my goodness.
All a bit close now as well, and I know who I favor in this kind of situation, but it's all down to positional advantage here. There are 45 seconds to go, so realistically, no one's got a rush here, but Joe is going to try and peek in that one. Yes, he does, but looks entirely the wrong way. Chaox is playing it like an expert, like a pro, dare I say. It's almost like he plays this game at the top tier regularly. Closes the round out and keeps the dream alive for Tempra. Otherwise, you'd be staring down the barrel of match point to NaVi.
Well, well, well. I did not expect that round to go in that way. And when Joe was in a 1v1, I actually didn't spot where that diffuser was as the round ended. Maybe if that had been closer to sight and they knew that he'd rotated in cash, maybe the call came out that he was low and Joe thought to himself, I can finish this here and now. Through elimination, rather than trying to bait out the plant, going into that sort of post-plant positioning, I can just finish it here and now. And maybe that was the wrong decision. Maybe that was the right. It's hard to really analyze that one there. But if the diffuser was over towards site, I would have, I guess, given him the benefit of the doubt, going, go get that diffuser, go try and get the plant down, and then at least try and play for the bait.
I like how Tempra is still remaining competitive, because back in the first half, we said ourselves, you know, this doesn't look like a new NaVi team. It looks like a team that understands each other well and knows what it is they're all about. But then you actually look at the stats and the outcomes so far. This is one of those games that can disappear into the history books. You look back at it and say, nothing really special happened in the first half, because with how things have shaped up, it has been a quiet game for Blur and for Joe. Joe may be more of a surprise given the role that he's looking to play in this game, but with things set at 5 and 4, it doesn't feel like this is such a stretch away for Tempra to bring this up to potentially being a 6-6 and seeing it end in a draw. That would be quite a surprise to start things off, and as mentioned, despite what we said in terms of what we observed looking good, the actual stats aren't quite there really to back it up, unfortunately, for the likes of Joe. Quite a few shots did come through, but none really converted into key kills early on in the round. You can probably count on one hand, maybe even two, the number of times in which he almost caught Chaoxis out, but didn't quite finish the job. Always got him down to about half HP.
You have to hit those shots, and that's the unfortunate part about it. You can't walk away with a multiplicity of assists in one game. That doesn't win you games. That doesn't win you rounds. And now they'll have to push CCTV. Will they go for a split push? It does look to be that way. Chaoxis this time, see whether or not he's able to get that banded trick grenade, collects him instead. And where are the ADSs? I know there's no Wamai, but there's no excuse to be caught out from the most easy way to deny a banded trigger, and that's a grenade sailing through the window.
What pains me the most is they almost fell culprit to this a couple of rounds ago, actually. And they even knew. They moved away and said, okay, there's a grenade there. Let's get the hell out. We don't want to stay because we know what's coming next. Chaoxis, as soon as he hears that EMP goes off, has got to know, I know what's coming next. We've seen this before. Instead, chooses to stay and try and stick it. Maybe he thought he could get away with it and then run away and would walk away alive, but wasn't quite the case. Joe gets a kill onto Durza, P4 trading it back straight away as he was lurking nearby. It's something. It's still an advantage to NaVi. It's still a 4 versus 3, and there is still 100 seconds left to go in this round. That is so much time that Tempra may find themselves struggling and reeling a little bit here on what to do next.
We saw it on the bottom floor side as well. They had so much time to work with. This is a NaVi that, dare I say, impresses me ever so slightly, especially on their attack. But Joe is down and out for the count. But guess what? He did his job. So, all things considered, not a huge loss here for NaVi. Still got their planter of Kendra well and alive. And in fact, he's got double-digit kills for a support player. That ain't too shabby.
No, it definitely isn't. And this is I didn't want to draw the comparison too soon because we still got to see more yet. Shinka versus Kendrew, who's had the big impact on the Thermite. I'll definitely give a lot of that over to the side of Kendrew. Even comparing their stats like for like, you can see how this game is shaped up. Here we are though into a 3 versus 3. 60 seconds to go, so things haven't stayed as strong for NaVi as they started out. They've lost time, they've lost members, they've lost resource, and almost managing to find themselves another kill, but not quite connecting. Only one drone left on side as well. This has got to hurt here, because although yes, you're trying to go for a push in towards the site, there is no intel collection available for them really in these dying seconds. Everything has got to be done by just stepping in and finding frags, and so far they seem to be failing in that endeavor. One kill coming across a Void, 3 versus 2, and Tempra have brought this one back from the brink. A 4 versus 3 into a 3 versus 2, and lots still to do for NaVi here if they want to be able to claim this round and put themselves at match point. Doki, that's the kind of thing you want to do, but again, yet another trade in this round coming out of Tempra, and P4 closes it out. That's a big thing I'll shout Tempra out for in that round. The trades that came through, absolutely wonderful. Both Joe and Doki getting caught out in those situations.
I really wanted to highlight that because that's something I think that even at a tier 1 level, professional players forget, is that, okay, you might have a really strong position where you are, but can you be traded? Or if your teammate's in another room or is lurking or roaming with you, can you trade them back? That's a big thing, evening the number count, that a lot of players forget when they go on the roam and they go, oh, I can really capitalize on this. They forget, do I have a buddy with me? Is there a buddy around me that can either help me pinch or trade me if things go wrong, if I can't connect my shots? And that's what Tempra do so well. And I really applaud them for that because it shows they've got coordination and really good teamwork. And yes, Mickey, I'm shouting out to you, big boy. You were my analyst. You're a coach out. You have no excuses. The boys, they got to step things up. And I'm glad that we're seeing them do that.
They brought it back to 5-5, which is not a bad position to be in, but it's about converting it now into a 6-5 and into a win. A draw feels like it's what this game deserves, because both teams have played it really well. NaVi, maybe not so much when it came around to the ending stages of rounds in that first half. This easily could have been, I think, a 5-1 or even a 6-0 if those couple of rounds where it came down to a last-second plant and a bit of a scrappy post-plant situation, if they converted those, very different conversation we're having right now. NaVi would have walked away with a 7-1, 7-2 scoreline. But the fact that Tempra managed to find those rounds and have managed to perform this well so far on the other half of things on the defensive side, it does give a lot of promise, I think, for both sides. And I wouldn't sit here and say this has been a poor game by any standard. I'd actually say I'm really impressed by what I'm seeing coming out of both sides.
Yeah, because we came in not having a huge amount of expectations, especially for NaVi. You make 2 big roster changes. It's what I said about Vitality last stage. I said give them time to synergize and work together, but pleasantly surprised. Super happy with NaVi being able to come out strong so quickly with those roster changes. And now we're seeing, I guess, what both teams have to show. Clubhouse is a very typical map. I'm not entirely sure whether or not Tempra have really upped their game from last stage, but we're at least seeing a little bit more consistency throughout the rounds.
Ooh, Kendrew going down early in this round. That's one of the hard breaches removed. So you're looking towards Doki if they need any more of those walls opened up on the ace. And that's about as far as they could be looking to get with that. What I like is the variation we're seeing between the two teams thinking about it as well. No real reliance towards the ace coming out from Tempra early on. Nothing relied towards the Thatcher either. Whereas here, there's a very different tactic being taken by NaVi. And I like it's how we start to see that unique personality or approach to the map coming out of different teams. And no doubt we'll see plenty more of that as the night continues to progress. But at least here in this round, without that Thermite on side, this round might have just got a little bit tougher because getting these hatches opened up and getting Church Wall open, you're running a bit of a risk there, guys. That ain't going to be so easy with just the ace on side.
Oh, Doki's trying to decide here. He's got 2 Selmas left. Does he toss one on there and then try one more on the Church Wall? Yes, he does. He desperately needs the Moto hatch open. So he will be able to get that. Grenades will come peppering through the roof to get the shields. They're not going to be go-yo shields, so that's okay, but it will open up lines of sight that Joe needs to be able to watch over down onto Armory. Dirtzer will try and challenge him back a little bit, but now we're coming down to the penultimate part of the round, the late round that some of these teams struggle with. Doki will open that wall, and there shouldn't be anything on there to deny it.
They are committing so hard towards Church here. They've got 0 control inside of blue. You still got 2 players from Tempra on site. They have got so many places they can fall back to here and still feel comfortable. They're taking everything in these final 60 seconds on making a push work down from the west side. And now I guess it comes down to Tempra to say, right, we've got the strong positions out towards the east here. We've got the cross angles set up. There is nothing to worry about. And I fear that for NaVi, this is going to play out exactly the same as it did last time round. They came for this push through the Church Wall.
37 seconds left on the clock. 4 players, 5 Tempra players rather, spotted behind the bomb chassis will be P4. That was one of the denials, but Kiox is having a really good game and a really good round. It's a double kill for him. Surely that's enough here for Tempra, but no. It's like NaVi, they'll have saves. We've seen him clutch before, but Durza says not today. And look at this, Tempra coming back into the swing of things. This is a much stronger Tempra than I think we've seen in a very, very long time.
Well, that was a bit too simple for them, I think, was the worry. NaVi leaving it a bit too soft. They got the wall open. And then what happened next? You had a couple of players at the bottom of main stairs. You had one lurking towards Moto, not really looking to make anything happen. And one of them goes for that later round rotate down through blue. Control that I thought they would have tried to get a little bit earlier on. If that had been the case, well, maybe you'd have stopped them being so comfortable sat inside a church out of the fear of the random wall bangs that we all know can come from blue stairs right into the back end of church by church wall. Just a little bit too much, I suppose, ease given to the side of Tempra, not enough pressure from NaVi. They find themselves in a spot here where they could lose this out to Tempra, despite looking so good at moments in the first half. And what a comeback that would have been for the French side. This will be incredible for them and a real motivational boost going into the next play day.
Yeah, I think that's something that Tempra really needed, because they can come in, you can come into a stage, not have been doing too well, I guess, in stage 1 and question yourself, are we really meant to be here? Are we the ones that are really going to be challenging other teams? And if you can beat a team like NaVi, again, they're in a new iteration of members, so we kind of give not too much stock to that, but if you can come in and say, yes, we can beat them, then that confidence boost will be absolutely massive for them going into the next coming play days, which, well, given how they played here on Clubhouse, I mean, I'm going to get some of their stats up about how they have played on Clubhouse previously, and it's looking like the last 2 times they played it, they lost both of them. This is Tempra, mind you. They've lost the only 2 times they played it, and it's their second most banned map. They've banned it 13 times. So this actually was technically a bad map for Tempra.
I mean, maybe NaVi are just holding on to those old memories against Rogue and thinking, yeah, you know what, pretty bad map for us as well, Jess. We recall those moments, but I agree with you. It hasn't been Tempra's best, but they're putting up a pretty good show. And let's not forget what the offseason allows. It does let teams really start to expand their pools out in different ways, bring new ideas to maps that maybe they wouldn't have played on before, and start to keep other teams guessing. After all, if you stay the same predictable team forever, teams are going to figure you out at some point or another.
Yeah, absolutely. Sort of the Team Empire curse, for lack of better phrases. But it doesn't matter. Tempra's on match point. They've secured themselves at least a draw. And if they're NaVi right now, they're probably sitting there thinking, well, we've at least got to get this next round if we want to get any points on the board. Otherwise, first play day will look pretty bleak for us.
Oh my, oh my. It's almost like memories of back up to the first time I ever cast them as a higher tier organization. Way back at DreamHack Valencia when they were against LFO in the quarterfinals. It came down to the final round. It was all the way in overtime at 7-7. And it came down to a war in trying to get into cash and CCTV. And they could not get construction open, and it cost them big time. Will they fall to the same fate here and give away those points? Or is there still something to be done here? Is there a draw in the backpack here for NaVi? Can they whip it out at the last second? Okay, yes, it's not the same site, but it still comes down to these last second, teeth-chattering affairs on this map. It always seems to be the curse of Clubhouse for them. Joe strikes big onto Durza, just like we started, as we mean to go on. He's going to find him out and collect at least a member early on. Now it's converting this numbers advantage into a round win.
Unfortunate for Durza, he moved up on the breach and he tried to do a hero play, and that was not the play here for the match point. He's going to think about that one later if they do manage to lose this round. P4 again below underneath the hatch, and it's always interests me why they put players there that don't have C4s. I mean, you could see up into the window, but you're not able to deny much else if you don't have the intel. And now with 50 seconds left, saves. He's trying to hold the flank. It's a very important job for him, and hold construction, but Voi's there for Blur. He was able to do a full rotate through Garage, and now kills will be flopping back and forth between them. But does he know that Shinka is here?
Oh, Shinka. No way. Shinka must surely pick up a free kill here, unless there is some wild swing coming out of saves. Don't know if you know someone's there. P4 finds another. Yes, there is from saves. Collects it. Oh my, that's a big one for them. 2 versus 2. You can taste it at this point, Jess. The air around us is heavy. It's the best way I can describe it. It's coming down to how it's going to play out in a 2 versus 2 with 15 seconds on the clock. Doki looking to go for a plant, pulls off at the last second. Can that cost him from this one? It all comes down to this, trying to peach his way down through the hallway, but it's trying to find it in there. Doki steps up. Oh my goodness, they've managed to bring it back and turn it into a 6-6. It looked like Tempra could maybe pull this one away, but the cross angle out of saves was enough to make sure that that diffuser was in a spot that Tempra were forced to draw towards them, and things close out in a draw. What a game that has been between those two teams, and truthfully, I think a well-deserved result. Both teams showing really great elements